I return to Kundar, the master hunter. My plan is to dive with him as he goes after the giant snakehead with nothing more than a pair of old goggles and a homemade speargun. In these choppy conditions, I'm straining to spot the surfacing fry. Yet Kundar's predatory eye picks out the slight ripple that gives them away.
Ready? Follow.
And with our target pinpointed, the hunt can begin.
I'm getting a bit nervous. It is totally another world down there.
By diving with a small camera, I hope to capture the entire drama as it unfolds. Everything has to happen on a single breath. So before going under, we edge as close as we can to our target. But when Dar suddenly slips in and vanishes without trace, he leaves me scrambling to catch up. Bad weather has churned the water into a murky soup. And with Dar gone, I feel a stab of panic. I could easily wind up getting harpooned by mistake. Dar loads. I can sense we're close. Suddenly, we're in the heart of the swarm.
I think we've got one. I'm going to keep out of the way.
With a single, well-aimed shot, Dar has caught a giant snakehead.
Sitting in a boat, dangling a line over the edge, believe me, is easy in comparison.
Despite taking a direct hit, the fish simply seems to shrug it off.
Oops, doesn't like that.
Having listened to accounts of its aggressive behaviour and seen for myself the scars on Sombat's foot, I'm well aware of what this river monster is capable of.
So there we go. But that wonderful black and white coloration, that is very much something that the fry will identify with. Bright colour, it's calling to them.
I expected this fish to end up as dinner, yet in a strange twist of fate, it's almost unharmed. Dar's spear has pierced the muscle of its back, but missed its vital organs.
We're actually going to release this fish. This is catch and release spear fishing. Very nice that this is going to go back and it is going to recover. Just hoping it doesn't double back and have a go at me as a last farewell. She's actually free now, she can go if she wants. There she goes. Well, it's actually gone back into the lake to be reunited with the young, so really good to see. You don't expect to see that from a fish caught on a spear.
There are two main methods of fishing here, drift nets and long lines equipped with multiple hooks. Both techniques are fraught with danger, and the chief takes me to meet fishermen to find out more. In my experience, this is not only the best way to learn about the fish, but you also get to hear stories that normally never make it to the outside world. We visit a tiny fishing village to meet Nkoi, a specialist in big catfish.
C'est Papa Jérémy. C'est un spécialiste. Le genre de la pêche qu'on pratique pour avoir le poisson kamba, soit le poisson du bata.
What we've got here is a three-stage process. You start off with one of those, a worm, on a little hook, and then that's attached to a weight. That goes down near the bottom. We've got a bit of an old sandal, bit of a flip-flop here. You throw those in the river, and that gets
hopefully a little fish called an mbese. It's a fish about that big. And they are the preferred bait. When you've got some of those, you then put that alive. Oh, there we go. Ah, okay. The line just attached to the mouth there, just threaded through, and then a big single hook just nicked through the skin there, and then the point nice and, you know, standing nice and clear there. So that's actually a very clean but very effective way of mounting the bait. There's another way of fishing which we would call a long line. You've got one main rope, and then at intervals you've got hooks coming off and you've got baits on those hooks. What can happen there is that you're bringing that in and you've got some hooks in the boat, and if you've got another fish on the line, or maybe even a couple of other fish on the line, and they start pulling, one of the hooks that's in the boat can actually stick in you. So potentially this multi-hook method of fishing is very, very dangerous. There was one man called Mangunda. He actually had a hook go through his hand. Now, he luckily survived. He cut through the line, you know, forget the fish, cut through the line to avoid getting dragged into the water, and also to avoid, you know, possibly serious injury. And they then had to cut the hook to get it out of him.
Y a pas de problème.
We head back to the village and join the rest of the fishermen, who are heading out to set their hooks for the night ahead. Nguema takes me along. Over the coming weeks, his help could make the difference between success and failure.
I've got close to 100 hooks there, all baited with, well, some with soap, some with bits of snail. And this is very precarious. I'm fairly heavy compared to the people here, but we've got quite a wobbly boat. And the idea of pulling in a big fish from a boat like this is a bit interesting, to say the least.
On met au profondeur d'eau.
The first weight has gone in. It's about 6 feet deep, something like that, it looked like. And what we're going to do now is put the line out towards the middle of the river with the hooks at intervals, and then there's a final weight just to hold everything in place. You get tension building up in the line. You get these hooks just whipping past you as you're paddling out into the middle. Actually trying this fishing for myself, it really brings home the reality of that story of the fisherman who had the hook stuck in his leg when he was pulling in some fish. The canoe is very unstable, your feet are very close to coils of line, you've got dozens of hooks in the boat, and you know, all it needs is just a slight slip, a slight lapse of concentration, and you're over the side, and the consequences can be fatal, just like that.
Okay, je vous donne ça.
The chief is anxious to head back to the village to see if there is any news about his brother. The following morning, it is only when I talk to one of the fishermen that I become aware of the extent of the danger I was in last night. If the chief's brother had not come back, some of the villagers were going to stone me to death. The rules out here are very different, and as we head out to check the lines, I try to put the events of last night behind me. It is now apparent how fundamental the chief is to my success here, not just in helping with the fishing, but maybe more importantly, in ensuring my safety. If anything were to happen to him while he's out with me, I dare not consider the consequences. And it's then we catch a snag.
It's a fish which pulled the line.
Il a accroché sur. Bon, moi je vais.
Without a second thought, Nguema disappears into the murky water. And I understand now how different our attitudes to fishing are. This is real, about feeding his family. I've gone into some of the scariest waters in the world, but in this situation, I'd be very afraid to leave the safety of this wobbly canoe.
It's very snag down there, very snag.
I try to act normal and remain calm, but this is exactly the scenario I was dreading.
It actually got caught on one of the other hooks. Now, you know, it doesn't bear thinking about if that hook had gone in fully past the barb, you know, you're just not going to come up.
It's becoming clear to me that the real danger might not be the monster fish, but the process of trying to catch them, and the desperation of the fishermen to feed their families. And Mami Wata may not be a supernatural being. Perhaps she's just a cultural invention to soften the reality of a premature, watery grave. Carefully, we release the tangled line in case there's a fish still attached. It's a slow process to get all the hooks in.
4 hooks up, no fish so far. 5 hooks, no fish, all the bait's gone. 6, 7, another one, no fish. 8, you can see the bits of snail coming up, still no fish. 9, empty hook. 10 hooks on that line, no fish.
We continue on the opposite side of the river, retrieving the other lines, but the end result is the same every time. Nothing to take home after all that work.
66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76. 76 hooks. There might be 1 or 2 in the boat as well, but 76 hooks have been out there for, don't know, 15 hours, something like that, overnight, and not a single fish. And I'm starting to think now, I'm starting to do the maths and think, here I am, I'm going to fish with 1 hook. This is equivalent to me sitting by the river for 75 nights. That's 2.5 months and catching nothing.
Normally, I head out on my expeditions to unpick a riddle and satisfy my own curiosity. But this time, I have a scientific team depending on me. And the results could mean the difference between life and death. This is the biggest fishing challenge I have ever faced. And if I connect with one of these sharks, it could be the biggest fish I have ever hooked. It's only now that I realise what I've gotten into.
The sharks in this river have a very specific way of feeding, and that is actually giving me quite a challenge in terms of what rig I use, because I've got to come up with something that presents the bait actually in quite a delicate way, but at the same time is strong enough to give me half a chance to get the shark in. And to be honest, at the moment, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to achieve that.
Sharks have evolved the greatest sensitivity to electricity of any animal. Tiny pores around the snout, called the ampullae of Lorenzini, detect minute electrical fields produced by other animals in the water. But they could also detect electrical microcurrents produced by my metal hook and leader, which is going to make bait presentation very difficult.
I'm basically just looking at what else I've got in my bag. I've got various different types of wire. I've got smaller hooks. Yeah, I think basically I just have to play around with stuff for a few hours and just see what I can come up with. Using is something like this. The trouble with these sharks here is if you fish too heavy, they're just not going to take the bait. The bait isn't going to act naturally, so hopefully something like that is going to work.
With my rig built, I team up with skipper Mark Woof. He has years of experience fishing the Breda River. His knowledge will be invaluable if I'm to catch myself a big shark. We head to the spot where the team caught the monster last year. To catch sharks in the Breda River, you first need live bait. This feels good bait size. Very strong.
Oh, there it is.
I only use live bait if I have to, and this is one of those occasions. The sharks in this river will eat nothing else.
I think that's why they're called a grunter. You can hear that noise it makes.
I'm hoping the grunter struggling on the line will have caught the attention of a shark. I transfer it to my heavier gear and get it straight back into the river.
It's actually a very strongly swimming bait. That's about 30, 40 yards off there. And that's right off the line. It came in on one hook, straight onto another one, and out into the water. I mean, it's quite possible if there's a shark in the area, they actually check that out on the way in, and they could well be sort of lurking around, eyeing that up.
I'm using a balloon rather than a conventional float, attached by a thin rubber band. This allows the bait to swim freely in mid-water. But when a shark takes, the balloon will break away, so the shark won't feel any resistance, which could make it drop the bait. I will then begin a count of 20. I have to know that the shark has properly taken the bait, so that when I tighten up, my circle hook will pull into the corner of its mouth. I may only get one chance, and I don't want to blow it.
Just a case now of waiting. Is the shark taken out, or is that the bait just running? It's not shooting out at speed. Ah, yes, there we go. 1, 2, 3.
From the moment the bait's taken, the speed of the run tells me this has to be a shark.
9. Anchor up, please, anchor up.
And nothing else in this river could engulf a bait that size.
11, 12, 13.
Now I must keep a cool head and wait for a count of 20 before I engage the reel.
18, 19. Right, tightening up. There's the balloon, heading for the horizon. Here we go.
Even with my harness absorbing a lot of the strain, this is like nothing I've ever hooked before.
This sling's in the way, a little bit of an obstacle course. This fish just feels so powerful. Without even really trying, it's just taking line.
I've chased big fish all over the world, and experience tells me that this could be the biggest I've hooked. More than capable of dragging me overboard if I make a wrong move.
Looks like it might come up. Yes. Just saw a fin break the surface. Oh, coming left now. This is quite a fast fish, it's quite lively, which is good because it means it's tiring itself out. So kick on the line. Coming up. There it is. I think that could be ready. Oh! What happened?
That shark felt as big as anything I've ever caught,
What went?
but I'll never know for certain.
Yeah. See there.
That's bitten through the wire. So that's a bite off. Score 1 to the fish.
I was overconfident. I thought I was bringing the shark in, but now I realised the shark was bringing the fight to me. I could see it was large, but it was not the 1,000-pounder caught last year, which means there's more than one shark using this river, and that's a concern to everyone living here. Finding the big one is like looking for a needle in a haystack. But I've come here during the annual eel migration, when thousands of breeding adults are heading downriver. Like all freshwater eels, these ancient fish begin and end their lives at sea, and this is where I'm hoping to intercept them. At Lake Ellesmere, in New Zealand's South Island, the eels run into a dead end. To reach the ocean, they have to leave the lake and crawl over a narrow spit of land. In the fading light, eel fishermen Graham and George are also waiting for the approaching swarm. They've cut a shallow trench at the end of the lake, just a few hundred yards from the sea. As the eels search for a way through, they'll run into this blind alley. It's a time-honoured strategy used by the Maori, and it seems to work. Before long, a writhing mass of eels is piling up under our feet. There's no danger here. The only thing on the minds of these eels is reaching salt water. Most of our catch is destined for the smoke rack or the cooking pot. But a different fate awaits any large eels.
Slippery customers. Very sizable one here. That one's actually too big to get one hand around. How'd you grab one of those?
Probably be too big to grab.
Right. So that's a big old longfin, isn't it?
That certainly is.
That's a good 4 foot long, that, isn't it?
20 pound. They got about 6 million eggs.
Right.
Yeah, in each one.
What we're going to do with this one is put it in the sack, and this one's actually going to go into the sea to complete its journey.
The fishermen tell me there were once countless thousands of eels pouring out of the rivers, some of them over 6 feet long. Nothing of this size has turned up in recent years, yet the more I get to know these fish, the more they impress me. Loaded with several million eggs, each of these females is about to embark on an epic 6-month voyage into the Pacific.
I reckon she can smell the sea, just yards to go.
The eels must now journey more than 3,000 miles to reach their spawning ground. Its precise location and how they manage to find it are still unanswered questions.
From here on, it's a creature of mystery.
I've now seen with my own eyes how a pack of longfins could make a real mess of someone, given half a chance. I've also tracked down credible stories of massive eels living in New Zealand's remote backwaters. Yet just when I'm ready to try and catch one of these slippery monsters, I run into an unexpected problem. In wilderness areas like this, fishing for eels with hooks is now strictly forbidden. I've no choice but to give up my usual methods and start from scratch. Eel fisherman Vic Thompson is my teacher.
I'm going to make a bob for you. Simply you find a bit of steak like that, or a bit of any red meat, cut it into a slim slice. And I've got a bit of mackerel fish here, which adds a bit of flavour.
Yep.
You have a bit of wool, just ordinary darning wool needle, thread through like that to start with. Pull it right through, and then you just wind this around like that.
Yep.
After you've done the first layer like that, you've got to put a loop on here to attach it to your line.
The theory is simple. When the eel bites, its teeth get tangled in the wool. I must then drag it ashore before it shakes itself free.
So there you've got your loop on your bob. Good bite size for an eel. You
So I
come
guess
in-
the angler doesn't have the hook. The eel actually has the hook in this situation, doesn't it?
That's right,
The eel
that's
has lots of
teeth-
hooks in its
teeth and
mouth,
top, yeah.
so they hook onto the wall. Very low tech, but very effective by the sound of it.
Very effective.
It all sounds straightforward, but as I head for a deserted spot on a deep water lake, I'm not so sure. The method I've just learnt is a traditional Maori technique known as toi, or bobbing. One clear benefit, at least, is that with no hooks involved, there's little danger of spilling the eel's toxic blood. Assuming I can catch one. Having cast my very first hookless bait, I wait for a bite. If anywhere has super-sized eels still prowling the depths, it has to be a place like this. Without a hook, though, I'm in virgin territory. It feels like I've been disarmed.
It's still in the mouth, it's still in its mouth. Look at that, just came out. Oop. Come here. There we go. My first fish on a bob. The technique actually works, and it works for two reasons. A bit of role reversal here. Normally it's me providing the hook. This eel has got hundreds of little hooks in its mouth in the form of teeth, and that's why it catches onto that bob. It sort of hooks in, but the other thing is it's a predator, and so it thinks that bait is getting away, so it hangs on, and then if I'm quick about it, it's up on the bank before it actually knows what's going on. Okay. Oh, it's all right, I'm putting you back. No need to struggle, I'm actually putting you back. Lovely, I've just caught a fish without using a hook. It absolutely works.
To draw them in, I first soak my clothes with fish guts. Put simply, I'm turning myself into human bait.
I feel my heart starting to pound. I've done some crazy things in my time. Getting into a pool with piranhas, going into murky water after snakeheads, but this has to be one of the scariest things I've done.
For protection, I'm wearing chainmail gloves and a thick wetsuit, and I'll be sticking close to the bank. Within minutes, eels start to emerge from their hiding holes.
That is just so snake-like, coming out of the water with its mouth like that. I'm hoping they're going for my hands, but they seem to be interested in other parts of my clothing at the moment, which is a bit disconcerting. And even if I move my legs, I move my hands, it's not really sending them away at all. They're coming right in close. The thing about these fish, these are not fish that people feed, these are wild fish, so they are hungry. They're bumping my legs, they're tugging at my shirt, and they're coming in on my fingers as well. I'm actually wearing gloves, these are Kevlar gloves, and I wouldn't be too happy doing it without those. No, I do want to hold my ground. I mean, I've come this far, I don't want to get out too quickly.
It's broad daylight, and from their point of view, I'm a big animal. But they're totally unfazed.
Get out! Ow! I think I need Kevlar underpants as well. Most fish would not do this at all, even piranhas. Ow! That was inside of the thigh, inside of the thigh. What I don't want is for them to draw blood. If they draw blood, that could really get them going. That is one aggressive fish.
Ah! Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Look at that!
I think it's time for me to get out, get out, get out.
I came here wondering if the monster described so long ago by Captain Cook was, in fact, a giant eel. Short of seeing an 8-footer, I can't be sure. Yet it's clear to me that without protective clothing, these eels would have ripped into my flesh and tried to eat me alive. And with this animal, it isn't just about size. Slip and fall over in some lonely river, and it's the hungry pack that could seal your fate.
Line, that's taking line. That's taking line.
This is my first super-sized Spanish whales,
Bit of speed on.
and immediately it feels seriously big.
Just physical